Welcome to my summit, Genesys Summit, Future Digital Thinking. Thank you all for being here so early. Thank you to everyone who arrived on time. Well done. I'm hoping my third speaker, Nuno, will arrive before he's due here, but Expedia, no, they do things last minute, I think, very high speed. So you'll see that I've set the morning into two sessions. We're going to hear from established companies, Daniel, Paul, and Nuno, who've been running their organizations, been involved in their organizations for a while, but are actually doing quite innovative things and moving forward. They're embracing future digital thinking. And I'll invite them each to make a presentation, then to come and sit here and we'll ask them questions. So if any questions pop into your mind, make a note of them, please, and we'll take care of them. It's just my wife calling. I'll talk to her later. And then after that, we'll have our second session where we'll meet the innovators, Max, Sahil, and Susie, hear presentations from them, and also ask questions as well. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Paul Richer. I run Genesys Digital Transformation. My business is a management consultancy, and we advise travel companies on the digital world, on technology and everything to do with it. I've been doing that for more years than I care to mention, but it was very easy pre-internet, so that's how long I've been doing this. Life's only got more complex in the digital world, and I suppose a lot of people in travel feel they have to be technologists as well, because it's a very technology-driven industry. So I hope that today you'll get some good insights into what the world's all about. I've asked the speakers if we can make their presentations available to you. So on the way out, leave your business cards and I'll drop you an email when I've got those presentations online. Our second speaker, Paul, from Movenpick, unfortunately, we won't be able to put his presentation online, so take lots of photos and just put it on Twitter. We'll do fine. Nothing we do about that, I don't think. Anyway, let me move on. So we're starting with our digital thinking in the hospitality sector. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our first presenter, Daniel from GCH Hotels.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's remote control. Well, I am the digital marketing consultant for GCH Hotel Group. We are one of the biggest hotel management chain in Germany. So we have hotels all over Germany, different landscapes, different way of expose our hotels in the internet. So I will try to give my thoughts on the future thinking on digital and how it affects us. First of all, we are living in a digital era, and we know that. We see our surrounding, how we store data, how we develop data. Especially on travel, but how we communicate, the post we put in social media, it's everything there. You know, in the last 2 years, we have done 90% of the stored data in the human history. Only in 2 years, sorry. And 2017 is a huge year regarding storing data. Big data. What this means for us, we will see in a couple of minutes. But this is a digital era, digitalizing almost everything. Secondly, disruptive innovations, we see them. I see them, I think, every month. And I'm talking about hospitality and travel. I'm seeing how companies are trying to get better personalizing data, better innovations to make our life easier, maybe to work less, maybe robots, but we will try to understand this trend. But this is something that is very much affecting and will affect our industry, and I will explain again through the presentation. And the last one is growth on travel. Why growth on travel? Well, two things. The chart that we will see here, you know, some are well known, OECD, IATA, but we are seeing that much of the countries are caring for the health of the population. And we are seeing this from 2060, 2090 was a huge progress, and we see them today. We see how the countries understand the importance of investing in the health of the population. Secondly, we see the low in mortality for sickness. And again, this is something in a couple of minutes we will understand this is affecting travel. This is affecting the way the people live in Earth. And how is the age? You know, when I'm looking at the companies and say, yeah, millennials. Wait a minute. Most of the people living in the Earth will be people 30, 40, 50 years old. These will be our travelers. We need to think about them now. I will talk about 2030 in a couple of minutes, and you will understand why this is so important. Mortality, and this is, you know, what I said a couple of seconds ago regarding the number of, you know, the ages of the people living in the world. Again, to live longer doesn't mean we can travel. It's a issue of well-being. It's a, you know, there is a magic word. It's GDP. You know, how the people expend their money, and if they have money. So these graphs that we are seeing, this is the latest. It's a monitoring application from the OECD. We see green on the growth of the GDP in countries. And what we see here is, again, from 2016 until today, this is the last graph, countries with growth on GDP. So we are talking about people living longer. We are talking about people having the opportunity to spend the money. And this will be maybe in the future because the robots, and this will be because artificial intelligence. But this means that we will have more travelers. Technology is growing in an exponential way. Innovations, as we spoke a couple of minutes ago. And this means we see it in transportation. More cheap to fly, affordable driving, cars, self-driving cars, trains. This will make, and again, this is a perspective from 2016 and wishful thinking, but this is the trend. The trend is an exponential growth on people, on passengers, IATA information. 2036, IATA, we're going to have some almost 7.8 billion travelers. We will have 7.8 billion travelers. How do we expect them to find us? And this is what I will talk a little bit now. It's going to be crowded in the city. We need to think the way to attract these travelers. How will be in the future? Future that I will speak to you today is 13 years from now. Only 13 years, 2030. You know, 2030, we will be here. All of us will be here, 2030, in the WTM London 2030. And you know, this is the trends that I will speak now with a small story. This is today's technology, not tomorrow's technology. I'm talking about artificial intelligence, cloud computer, voice, predictive analysis, virtual reality, augmented reality. The shopping, like Amazon, eBay, Expedia is starting to do it. They are using these technologies today to attract you. I think one of the most important here, technology that I can speak about is voice technology and predictive analysis. I will know because your behavior, because I know your data in social media and what you do in the search, I will know what to offer you and what to not to offer. And when you will see a movie in the YouTube or search somewhere in the, you know, in the future, we will know about you. And the assistant, artificial, will help you choose your destination and what to do. Small story, common sense, using the technology that I think it's a hard trend. Voice, it's a hard trend. It will not go down. Self-driving cars, planes, trains, drones will not go down, will go up. So let's dream a little bit. Not so much dreaming, because again, common sense. 2030, we wake up in the morning, and Trilly, our assistant, is there for us. Trilly is a granddaughter of Siri. You know Siri? You know Siri. So Trilly will help us to wake up, and will tell us, I see that this is the robot week, because, we will work with robots, we will work with artificial intelligence, and we will go 1 week to work with them, and 1 week they will work alone. And they will learn, and we will have time. People will have time, and travel will be part of our lives, everybody's life. Travel will be, the system will know, you have a week off. I want to offer something. Maybe you want to go as you went the last time to make, sky diving or some activities, or maybe you want to rest because I saw we were stressed a little bit 2 weeks ago and 1 week ago with the project. I can offer you something like that. What do you think? Wow, why not? Why not? So the system will go to a huge travel database. It's called, what's his name? Google. Google Travel. We'll go to Google Travel. All the data will be there. And just, our artificial intelligence assistant will know how to scan the information. And they will say, okay, what do you think about this week? And you say, well, okay, let's see. I will see it with my virtual reality glasses. Virtual reality, not augmented reality, virtual reality, because I want to be in the hotel. I want to go there and see the rooms and open the balcony and see the landscape and then to choose. And I said, okay, let's go. Trilly will ask me if I want to share this information with my friends. Maybe I want to invite a specific friend to come with me. And then all the data will be downloaded to my, let's say, this is the iPhone 20, and the data will be with me. Driving car will be waiting for me. No payment, no check-in, biometrical data will welcome me because, the system will know us already. And we will enjoy our vacation. This is my thoughts for 2030. I have 1 minute? Yes. 1 minute. What we do now. So what GCH, or what we need to think about now. So we know that the visitors are already using technology. So if you're not using virtual reality, start to use it. I'm working now helping a company, it's called VD Room. They take a website, a hotel website, we put them, 360 photos, or they take the photos, and they build a virtual reality website. GCH has a virtual reality portal. Use it. It's not, this camera is the latest Ricoh Theta. I think it's 300, 400 euros, something like that. Use it. Voice. How do I predict, or how do I think about the content? When I build a website, when I build a landing page, what needs to be there? I will not talk about SEO for voice, but just to let you know, you need to think about that, because voice is there. It's not coming, it's there. So you need to think how to put the data, your content. Not only pictures, not only videos. How do I put content so voice assistant can reach me, can find me? Again, self-driving cars and directories and huge opportunity. Social media, so important. Yes, maybe they will not finish the funnel there, but you will be exposed. Remember, crowded cities means that we need to give activities. We need to give meaning to the stay of our guests. So when you think about buying an hotel, you already have an hotel. What experience can I give to the traveler? Not only the stay, what experience can I give? Because this is the present, this is the future. And this is the way why they will come. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel, for setting the scene there. It's some technology we can talk about. And let's move on to another hotel chain. Let's welcome Paul from Mövenpick.
Thanks very much, Paul. Delighted to be here with you today. And Daniel, that was great. Thank you. I'd like to give a different perspective. It's maybe more into what we do on the ground within the hotel business. Maybe to just give you a 2-second pitch on Movenpick. Movenpick is a bit unique in that we're a mono brand. You have many hotel companies out there today that manage multiple brands. We've taken the view that we really want to concentrate on Movenpick. We have more than 65 years of experience within the business. We have really a long breadth of history and storytelling within the brand, mainly focused within the Middle East, Europe, Asia, and Africa region. So I think it's an apt title, The Future of Digital Thinking, because, you know, let's face it, in the world we live today, it's very hard to forecast more than, you know, a week, a month, a year, certainly 2036. Whether we'll be in WTM or not, who knows? For us, it's really about getting into a process or a culture that can help us constantly amend the way we think about digital. And what I want to go through in the next couple of slides is just what we've done to try and help us on that path. And the first decision we took this year was we said, yes, you know, and Daniel mentioned it, it's not all about millennials. We have multi-segments. We need to be relevant for all our segments. But we were within our sort of ex-com or executive committee team, we felt we were kind of over-representative in the older segments and under-representative in the younger segments. And we really wanted to have a platform where, you know, people who have a different perspective could come and challenge us in our thinking. And what that actually means is we all read GIFT, we all read the different trends, and we all have our own opinion on it, but we wanted to have people who have grown up with it, and it's part of their lives. And we took the decision to add 10 people onto our executive committee who have very diverse. So there's 5 ladies, 5 gents. We have most of the nationalities within our organization representatives. So we've got Syria, Poland, Germany, Asia, etc. And also, more importantly, we have 4 external people. And that's really important because, without being funny, 2 of the people internally are in my team, so they may find it a bit harder to say something, whereas when you've got 4 people outside of the company who really are not afraid to tell it how it is, I think that's really good. And what we started off doing within our sort of exec meetings is to have one the day before with the millennials and one after with just ourselves, because we said, you know, we've got quite a bit of sensitive information, etc. And in the end, we just said, no, this is a waste of time. We should just have one with everybody in there to make sure that we could really get the most of it. And we've really, I really feel that it's helped us a lot in our thinking. And just that challenge of saying, yes, there's the senior people we need to look after, and families, and all of this. But ultimately, you know, we need to make sure we don't do things for technology's sake. Just because something sounds fun and in tune today doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help us get to what we need to do, which is to make sure when a guest comes to our hotel, they have the best experience possible so that hopefully they come back again. Hopefully technology can enable us to do that better, but the fundamental is that we are in the hotel business and that's our job. So some of the things we've kind of changed really is we've really wanted to look at it from a full customer journey perspective. So on the top right corner, you see we make moments, and that's basically our brand vision. So our brand vision is to say, life is made up of many moments, and to get the most out of life, the more positive moments you have, the better. And anything that Movenpick can do while you're with us or in our world that can do that, whether it be big or small, we want to make sure we can deliver that. And we believe technology could really help us get there, because the more we know about our guests, the more we can figure out those little things that are annoying that we can really help a guest with. And they can be as simple as handing somebody an umbrella as they walk out the door when it's raining, probably will be later on today, or a child falls and some of the staff play with the child or whatever in our hotel. So it's not some sort of major thing here. It's really trying to be genuine and warm and walking in the guest's shoes, because as you have all traveled here today, it's quite tricky there when you go through an airport or you go through a metro or you get pushed around or whatever, and just having that feeling when you walk in the door that somebody has the information, and the staff then, because they have the information, can make your life better. So what I'm getting to is everything we're doing, we're really trying to look at it from the guest in the middle. So does the guest care? If I do this online, digital, whatever, will I make that guest life better? Will we make the company more money? Let's face it, we're not a charity. And do we have a good chance of that guest coming back again? And so I won't go through each point on this, but it's just to say, there's a cycle that a guest will go through to book a hotel. And depending on the demographic, depending on the segment, depending on where they are with their lives, they will dip in and dip out of this cycle. So researching online, talking to their partner, talking to their friends, looking around, going to a price comparison site, making a booking, the build-up to the stay, the hotel reaching out before you arrive saying, have you thought of this? We're looking forward for you coming. And then when you're on site, sharing with your friends and with Facebook, etc., and then ultimately going out. So the more within our company we can look at every project within this framework, we really feel it helps us, not just do things because they sound cool, but really do things because they mean something for the guest. So quickly, just to give you some ideas of what that means, we've all been there. You turn up at a hotel, you want to check in, you've had an overnight flight, and you see a queue. That is the last thing you probably want. However, there are other segments, like more senior segments, that when they arrive at the hotel, they really want to feel a welcome and talk to somebody and get a view on what they can do and how they can do it. And so we're really trying to find a way for us to look at the check-in, check-out and see how we can have, not disregard other segments, so older segments, families, etc. But at the same time, if you want to get in and get out quickly, make sure we can do that for you. Then, obviously, looking at the whole online check-in, mobile check-in, etc. And we have a number of this live in some of our properties. Then the whole thing of, bringing back the emphasis of what the hotel business really was, not what it is, but what it was. It was about an occasion, a microcosm of what a city was. And so this whole idea of having the lobbies come alive, having it as in a way that you can really feel part of a community and really feel part of something. So we're looking at all of these sort of things up here. So you see with the XCOM Y, for instance, they're quite keen to see what we could do with social media within the lobbies, for instance. See how can we make the whole company come alive in a lobby. So just because you happen to be in Jordan doesn't mean you don't want to hear about what's happening in Phuket, and really try to make it come alive and using technology to get us there. Daniel mentioned it about social media. You know, it is fundamental. This is not a millennial thing. This is, we're all on social media, whether we like it or not. And just really making sure that we're relevant. And that's quite tricky because on the one side, you know, we've more than 82 hotels, so we've more than 82 opportunities of driving real content that makes a difference. But on the same time, we have to find a way that there is a kind of a Mövenpick frame around the content to make sure that it's relevant for our guests. And last but not least, and this is where I think we're quite unique. We're quite unique in that we're one brand, but also, given our size, we have a big opportunity to get all our technology talking together. And that's really fundamental. I mean, we're the first hotel company to go live with Opera 9 in the cloud. And that means that every one of our hotels will be linked together. And then that means that when you turn up at one of our hotels, there's one profile which then is replicated in all our different hotels, real time. Now, that mightn't sound like rocket science, but within the hotel business, it really is something, because it's been, as an industry, it's been so decentralized that you end up with 5 different systems here that doesn't talk to the system there, etc. So we've really spent a lot of time to say, you know, we start off with the PMS in the single voice of truth, and then from there we put on CRM and BI and all these things, and that really helps us come out with the, let's call it the 4 things we really need to focus on within the business, and that's profit optimization, because that's kind of what we're here for, revenue management. Secondly, the whole guest experience, CRM, personalization, making sure the guests have the data, our staff have the data, our employees, our teams want to do the right thing for a guest, but if they don't have information to help them get there, it's not going to happen. And then, last but not least, is sort of whole operational efficiency. Because everything is linked together, of course, we can do things remotely, we can cluster, we can think of many different ways of doing things. And then, last but not least, with security and, you know, all the different things you read in the paper about data going missing left, right, and center, by having it all linked together, that really makes our life a bit easier. So really today, I just wanted to give you a quick flavor of what we're doing at Mövenpick and maybe bring it back a bit more to say, we don't know what's there tomorrow, but what we want to make sure is we have the right culture and, you know, the right challenging within the organization to say, what is it we're trying to achieve? And that's to make a guest life better and make sure they come back with us. And then with that, what technology do we need to make that happen? And more importantly, how can we help our employees use it? So that's, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Paul. That's fantastic. And let's have our third presentation. He's Nuno, and Nuno is from Expedia Affiliate Network. He's Director of Data Science. Let's welcome him, everybody.
Good morning. My name is Nuno, and I'm going to talk about voice assistants and chatbot. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about Expedia, then go into the main focus of this presentation, chatbots, and then show a little demo. A little bit about me. I actually started out as a computer scientist and software developer, as many data scientists do today. Then decided to leave for the academia again and do a PhD in machine learning. Then worked a bit on big data as well, on credit cards, fraud detection, using machine learning, and finally I've been running the data science team at Expedia Affiliate Network for the last 4 years. A little bit about Expedia. Many of you know Expedia. It's the largest world travel site with about 86 billion gross bookings and about 9.8 million in revenue. But when you hear about Expedia, it's not just the Expedia.com brand, it's actually a family of brands. So on the OTA side, you have Expedia and Hotels.com are the main ones, and then you also have the vacation rentals, HomeAway, and our meta player, Trivago. I actually work for the B2B part of the business, Expedia Affiliate Network, or IAN, and IAN does not have a website. It has an API. It basically powers the travel industry using our technology and Expedia's wide inventory. So, for example, when you are booking a flight on an airline, you are presented with the option to add a hotel to your booking. This is probably coming from Expedia. In terms of number of affiliates, number of companies that receive our hotel inventory is about 7,500 different affiliates. And this comes from many different types of business. So we talked about airlines, but you also have the typical online travel agencies, corporate, loyalty players, all sorts of companies. Some of them is one man in a garage, some other are as big as Expedia. So this brings lots of challenges in terms of what you can do with data science and artificial intelligence. The first one is because every business is different, the data is completely different, the customers are completely different. And when you have a B2C website and you have a data science function, you're typically optimizing one single website. In our case, we need to optimize for about 7,000 different websites. So it's a big challenge, but also is really rewarding from a data science perspective. So what is data science, right? The way I like to define it, there's basically two main ways you can make money. The first is to make a few very big decisions using data. So this is your typical A/B testing approach, where you make a change to your website, or you run an A/B test for 3 months, and then provide insights to your leadership team, and then they make one big decision. One big acquisition, one big bet for the next 3 years, and then you still make your $1 billion. That's one way. On the data science way, you actually make billions of decisions, each one worth 10. So this is when you have a machine learning algorithm running on your website, and you're improving conversion on every single search. On every single customer that comes to your site, you're actually making one decision in real time using machine learning, and potentially help the customer and make one more cent for us. So data science actually provides the algorithms, the machinery that allows to make all of these billions of decisions in a smart, real-time, and data-driven way. So what are we doing in terms of data science at Ian? Basically 4 main use cases. The first one is the traditional sort. Because every customer is different, everyone has their own preference. Everyone likes to see different hotels. So sort is about putting the right hotels at the top of the search. So when they search for hotels in London, you would show the right hotels for that customer in that moment in the top 5 positions. So we're using machine learning. And the second one is about monitoring. You know, when you have 7,000 different partners, many things can go wrong. They can have an outage on their side. We can have an outage on our API. And it's very important that we are the first to know and take preventive action to mitigate the problem. The third use case is about recommendation. The recommendation is very common these days when you go to Amazon. So this is about when you are looking at one specific hotel, you are suggested with other hotels you may be interested in. So imagine on YouTube, when you're watching a video, you see other similar videos that you might be interested in. If YouTube didn't have this functionality, you'd watch your video and leave the site. But because it has this recommended functionality, you just keep clicking, and 3 hours later, you may still be clicking on cat videos. And finally, using deep learning to rank images. We have millions and millions of hotel images, and it's very hard to basically show the best ones to the customer manually. And different customers have different types of preferences as well. So you need some sort of automated approach that looks at an image and finds how attractive it is for this particular. But the main reason I'm here to talk about is a project we've kicked off this year about chatbots or voice assistants. In my mind, there's really no difference between what a chatbot is and a voice assistant is. One is the input is voice, the other, the input is text. But I'll explain in a bit later why I don't think there's a big difference. When you search for a hotel, in the past 20 years, this is what you see. So you put in your date, you put in your destination, and then you basically get the list of hotels. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a $7 trillion business in the US alone based on this format. But this format has not changed in the past 20 years. So first, you need to know where you're going. And then when you are trying to cancel or do some more complex things, there's really no way for you to input. So our goal with this was actually to explore chatbots as the next possible format for hotel search. Right? Can we help the customers, provide them a better service, if we can have a more conversational-like approach? Like the previous speaker was saying, we want to provide a more warm approach to our hotel search. How can we do this? Can chatbots or voice assistants be the next step in that? I think they have the potential to be the next step. So not just answering questions, where do I want to go, but also find me a hotel with a spa, or a hotel good for kids, or I need to cancel my booking or change my hotel in the last minute. So we explored this option with chat. About 50% of all searches will be voice searches as soon as 2020. So we all think this is far off in the future, but no, it's 3 years from now. So this is very, very close. And when you think about chatbots, actually the number is 80%. 80% of business will have some form of chatbot by 2020. This is an impressive number because it just changes the paradigm we used to search and search for travel fundamentally. So if it is so promising and so good, why didn't we do it before? Well, essentially the technology was just not there. Take the example of speech recognition. 15 years ago, the error rate for speech recognition was about 20%. This is 1 out of 5 words would be wrong. And recently, this number has dropped to about 5%. This number is very important because it's actually the point we humans are. It's our error rate that recognizes speech, which is quite interesting. So what was the technology that was responsible for this big drop? Deep learning. In particular, a specific type of neural network called LSTM, which basically specializes in handling sequences like text or voice. So for this particular project, the flow and the way we think about chatbot is essentially this one. You get the text or you get voice, and because the error rates are so low, speech recognition is essentially solved. You can use a public API to do your speech recognition. So we can assume we get the text, because if we get the voice, we can just convert it to text for free. After you get the text, show me a 5-star hotel nearby, just give that to your LSTM, your deep learning models, which will then convert it to a series of parameters. So in the case of hotel search, is your check-in, your check-out, your number of adults, children, your dates. And then you just need to give that to a booking backend, to some sort of API that will handle the search for you, and then return the relevant hotels for your customer. So this is specific for hotel search. But if you think about it, if you want to extend it for cancellations or for other types of tasks, it can be very easily achievable because deep learning will just learn. You just need to give it more data. It will just learn it for you. And when you think about making a chatbot or a voice, there's 2 main tasks you need to do. The first one is detect what is the customer trying to do. Is the customer trying to search for a hotel or trying to make a cancellation? So the first task is to actually detect the customer's intent. After you've detected their intent, you're actually going to do a task called slot filling. So for hotel search, the slots you need to fill is actually destination, check-in, the check-out, and potentially some amenities. So after you detected this hotel search, you just need to fill in the slots. As an example, we, for this particular project, created 4 different intents. So the 5th one is actually small talk, because the first thing you do when you have a chatbot is not book me a hotel, is, hey, do you want to go to the cinema with me? So 4 main intents. Hotel search. After you get your results, you're actually going to sort them by price, by relevancy, by distance. After, you may want to filter for a certain price, or look in more detail into one particular hotel. So looking into the hotel search, when you want to find a hotel room in the Fifi from the 15th of November for 2 nights, you detect it is a hotel search, and then you're actually going to fill the slots, which are the destination, the date, and the checkout. Finally, I'm going to show a little demo. Which is obviously not. So first you obviously say something to the bot, and then you need to put your destination, or you can say, I want to go to this particular destination. Finally, you can put your dates. And this is one particular implementation. So this is being powered by our API, by our chatbot API. Actually, any other implementation is possible. So for the Expedia affiliate network, the way an affiliate would use this is to actually integrate this in their own chatbot apps or in their voice. So this can take the form of any text or any voice. And then you just talk to any hotel API to get your results after you have converted. So some possible extensions for this are the cancellations, the customer service, and making it possible to actually make some booking on it. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, 3 great presentations there, some very interesting things to talk about. Who'd like to ask the first question? Pop your hand up and I'll get a microphone running round to you. Yes, just at the front here. What would be very helpful? Have we got a microphone? Young lady with microphone? Down here, please, at the front. Can you put your hand up again just so you can be seen? That's lovely, thanks. Right down at the front here, thank you. Daniel, just while the microphone's arriving, you showed us an amazing array of technology. It reminds me of a talk I was giving yesterday when I talked about how we all used to love to go into a bank to get money out and talk to a human being behind the counter, and now we all use cash machines. Are we actually in danger of dehumanizing the hotel industry, do you think, in just bringing all this technology along? In what is a people-type industry, and if we are, does it matter? Any thoughts on that, Daniel?
Sure. I think you said before something is very important. And we are, as an hotel, a hospitality business. And hospitality means, for sure, the stay, for sure, the experience, but I think it means human relation as well. We need to do the best, to give the best when we have a guest in our hotel. Remember that the guest sometimes comes from different channels. You know, sometimes will come from loyalty, sometimes for, some OTA, some search engine or whatever. But when they are in our hotel, we, I think, have the responsibility to give them the best stay. For 2 reasons. One, because they came for that. And the other one is, again, is the best loyalty issue we can do, the best thing we can do for these guests to come again. Maybe sometimes directly with us, or sometimes through the OTA they know already.
Okay, fine, thanks. Let's have a question. It'd be very helpful if you tell us who you are and where you're from, the company you're from. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Savas. I work for Louis Hotels. We manage 25 hotels in Cyprus and Greece.
Good, thank you.
For Daniel, please. You spoke about voice SEO and the importance of building websites to cover that in the future. Is it possible to have some examples of data that should be available on websites to be attracted by voice SEO.
Two things that I will talk about. It's really a bit complicated now to expose all the knowledge, but you need to think, the people will have 3 or 4 channels to come to Eurotel. One is, like you heard about Expedia, that they are doing an amazing job, and this is what we talked about, a bit of the future, but the future is now, some years from now. So this one, don't worry. They will know how to scan, crawl your data, and forget this one. If we will have, as we have in GCA, we have a website for each one of the hotels. We have a Facebook page. We have Twitter in some of them, depending on the country and the city and the guest that we are looking for. But SEO for voice needs to be written. Crawler needs to read the relevancy of your hotel, and not only on the meta tags, let's say, perspective, but you need to be clear on a certain picture, video, or text. What is your hotel about? What is your intent? What is your location? Not only an address, because again, machines will read the address, will try to figure out the keywords of your landscape or your location. But you need to write what you think is relevant, because voice or understanding is all technology. Because, the voice recognition, the virtual intelligence, the pattern association, the way the machine will understand, okay, but they will drop it to words that somebody or a machine will search for. So the words need to be written. They need to be understood in your website or regarding your hotel. And this is, just to make it very, very short.
Fine, thank you, Daniel. Another question. Who'd like to ask another question? Paul, while everyone's thinking, let me ask you a question, because I was actually listening to your presentation. I was very impressed. I made a note here. I should talk to you about behind-the-scenes technology, because one of the sessions I was running yesterday, we had a presentation from Gatwick Airport, and they're doing amazing stuff behind the scenes you don't see to make their business more efficient. And then you actually talked about that as well. You talked about putting Opera 9 in the cloud and the benefits that might have for I suppose, the single view of a customer. That sounded like, how many hotels does Movenpick have?
82.
Yeah, so that sounds like a very significant project. How many years did it take to achieve that?
So I think we're looking in that we had a clean piece of paper to start with, but it's taken us about 2.5 years to get to where we are, and we're halfway there. However, now the ramp up is much quicker. So we think by the end of next year, the end of 2018, we'll have the majority done. I think coming back to your first question about dehumanizing the industry and stuff, and Daniel's response, I think the more we can take the pain out of the interaction, so that when it's an interaction with a person, it's meaningful, it's adding value, the better it is. Because if you think, when you go to make a booking, you fill in a form. You turn up at the hotel, they ask you to fill in another form. Then they ask you for your passport, then they ask you for your credit card, and all this. So before I think you mentioned the hospitality, you've invited somebody to your house. So before they even have kind of got near the kitchen, you've pretty much got their credit card details. So the way I think we need to look at it is much more using technology to take that pain out, so that it's more about getting somebody down to have a great experience, or if they have an interaction with a staff member, it's really something positive or something that's helpful for them, rather than this thing of constantly, having a table in front of somebody and almost, literally having a very cold experience from the first moment they come near you.
Okay, fine, thank you. Who has another question that I'd like to ask? No, can't see. Oh, no, there you are, Daniel, okay.
Yeah, I want to ask you something. I think it's very important, and it was in the news, I think, 1 week ago. When you give a machine, an artificial intelligence, let's say a software, calculation and learning ability, and you said, okay, I want if if one person is coming to the website, I want to optimize his stay in the pages and to sell them something. And sometimes you go to a website and say, okay, we have 5,000 people looking at this hotel, or we have only one room left, and maybe the machine is doing that to press me to book now. But sometimes, you book and then somebody else goes to the same hotel and there is more rooms. And it wasn't, it was the machine deciding for me, this is the way to press the It's that's, maybe I feel a bit, not so good with this kind of approach. What do you think?
So I think these days people kind of expect already some e-commerce websites to have, for example, recommendations and deals, and it's very common. And they also expect today to see that urgency messaging. 5 people just booked this room. I think people nowadays actually kind of expect that, and when they don't see it on the website, they actually find it strange. So I think what's important is that the machine and the data that those messages are being derived on is truthful, and it actually represents the true state of things. I think if that's the case, people expect it, and there's nothing wrong with it, of course.
So what you'd say, Nuno, in urgency messaging, as you call it, actually it's not pressurizing people, it's just delivering them more information to help them make their decision?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because otherwise people could wait like a week, but if they know that this is a hot room that 100 people are looking at in the last 24 hours, they may actually buy it sooner. But what's important is to be ethical and actually just say what the real state of things. Otherwise, it's a different problem.
Can I have a microphone there, please? Well, while it's on the way around, yeah, that's right, for you. Yeah, thank you. No, well, wait for your microphone, then we can record you for posterity.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perhaps you can tell us who you are and where you're from?
Okay, my name's Noel Anderson, and I'm doing a master's project on digital marketing for the company Sky Club. And I'd be interested in finding out from each of you. We've talked a bit about 2030, but we can throw it up in the air and decide what might happen then. It's a long way out. But what would you say would be the digital technology that we'll all be using in our hands, using our voice in 2030? And that's to each of you. I'd like to get a perspective.
Yes, okay. Good. Daniel, would you like to start? Do it in a sentence, because we're running short on time.
Again, I will speak, for myself and my experience. And I'm 56. I am using today, I think, 5 wearables. 5 things connected to the internet. I use voice, not only for search, but to, simple things like wake me up, search for, take me there or nearby. Or I use it. I use it very much, and this is something is make me. I tell my iPad, she knows already what music I like. So I think it's about making our life comfortable, and this is the trend, and this is the things and the innovation that I'm seeing. We are not the bubble that we were before. You see things happening for making our life comfortable, especially travel. So I think that technology will be the most comfortable thing you can think about for going outside with your family, alone, to do some adventures, to experience something. This is what I think. Voice is there. A small wearable with a microphone here, I think, will be enough. Maybe glasses or something inside the eye, or you will see virtual reality, augmented reality. The technology are there to make yourself comfortable. So this is what I think will be.
Just to extend on that, do you think the mobile phone will be obsolete in that case by that point?
My phone, I have it here. I have in my watch all what I need. I can speak through the watch. I can write from the watch. I can answer. I can, So the smallest and the comfortable thing will win the challenge.
Thanks, Daniel. Paul, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my flippant answer is if I knew that, I'd probably be running out of here now and buying shares in it. I think it's always difficult to jump that far ahead. most of the technology you showed earlier existed for quite a long time. You know, if you think insurance companies have used chatbots or messaging on their websites forever, but it just never really took off. The whole Google Maps was there for quite a while, but it really took a long time to get. So I think there'll be a big refinement on what we see today. You know, it always strikes me when I've got young kids, and when my daughter was 3, I saw her one day going up to the TV and just like swiping it. And I really think, you know, that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be so easy. I think all those silly things of having to fill in forms to buy something, or to even the whole check-in for airline and all the rest of it, I think that will all get a lot easier. But sometimes some of the stuff that we saw today that I showed about, say, online check-in, the biggest barrier to that is actually some countries actually require legislation for you to physically take the passport print of a customer when they come in. So even though the technology exists, actually in real life, the rest of the world takes a long time to catch up. And just maybe a last point is, I also think there's going to be a challenge here between privacy data and the CRM and personalization, because they're kind of competing against. If you think of the latest Euro privacy laws, etc., it's sort of counterintuitive to this whole idea of picking up all this data that will ultimately help to make somebody's life better.
Okay, Nuno, let me ask you a different question, if I may, because we've got to close soon. You mentioned how we're moving to this world of chatbots. Voice is an obvious interface, and you know, I can talk to Siri and I can talk to Alexa. I've got all the nice tools that I should have. And it's actually, once you realise you're down to that less than 5% error rate, it's a very easy thing to do. And so I understand in China, WeChat, which is a chat application like WhatsApp, is being used now to maybe book an Uber or do some other commercial transactions. As we move towards a voice interface, and we are moving there, are we actually going to find that companies such as GCH or Movenpick or maybe Expedia are actually going to be losing their opportunity for brand reinforcement and branding, because all they've got now is a voice. They've got no image, they've got no text anymore, and they're just becoming responsive. Is there a branding issue on the horizon for companies?
Potentially, but a company as wide as Expedia has many different brands. Some of the brands actually focus on branding and having a brand known, but for example, my own brand, Expedia Affiliate Network,
is pretty invisible.
Provides wide label service to partners. So in that sense, it can power WeChat, it can power all of those. So it's actually an opportunity for Ian.
Okay. So Paul, would you be worried about that for Movenpick? If people are now doing everything on voice and we don't see your images anymore, we don't see your logo?
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening anyway if you think about it. You know, as with the likes of Google, when you type in a hotel name or a booking or whatever, you know, all of that functionality is coming up onto the first page, results page of Google. I think it just makes it more and more important that when the guest is on property, that you really make the experience something amazing. So because word of mouth is still going to be the thing that's going to drive.
And then maybe that's where you and Daniel score over Expedia, is you've actually got something physical for people to experience. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, a great session. Let's thank Daniel, Paul, and Nuno very much indeed. Thank you, gentlemen. So you can all wander down, and if three of you like to stay for the next session, that'd be lovely. If you need to get on, I won't feel insulted. And let me see, the next session that we're doing is actually Meet the Innovators. So we've looked at 3 very established companies who are doing great things with technology. And now we're going to look at innovators who are just starting off and just moving forward. And I'd like to introduce our first innovator. Let's welcome Max from Eco Companion, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a little clap.
Thank you. So, hello everybody. Yeah, I think it's going to go quite a different route now. I feel like I'm kind of the comic relief somewhat to shift things along. It's pretty much as distant as you can possibly be from Expedia, especially because I'm going to be using GIFs, which is going to at least wake you up. This is me when I first learned how to make my own GIFs. It's a very important moment in my life. I'm the founder of EcoCompanion. So EcoCompanion, our mission is to create a place for nature in tomorrow's world through the power of ecotourism. It's a dream which I think has been around for a while, but no one's really kind of executed it well enough. So I think this is the mission for the business ahead of us. I'm going to be talking about my journey in an extremely kind of honest way. You're going to be seeing a very personal story about my life. And the GIFs we're going to be trying to put across the emotions that I felt in each of those moments, which maybe I don't want to portray myself in the moment. Like this guy, very enthusiastic. So, from my hippie beginnings, this was right at the start. This was, there's a reason why I'm going to be explaining this part of it, is really that my background, I think, made me who I am and decided what I ended up doing for my own business. So it's important to remember where I came from. And in particular, where I came from was a school called St. Christopher's School, which was started by Quakers. We had no uniforms. It was vegetarian, called our teachers by their first names. We had worm pits to recycle the food waste. We did everything you can possibly imagine. Basically, a bit of a hippie background. And as I say, I'll explain why that's actually important to any of you later in the process. After that, I went to university. I had an absolutely great time. I left university pumped. I was excited. The world was my oyster. There was so much opportunity ahead of me. How was I going to impact the world? There was everything ahead of me. So then I got my first job. I started at Woucher, which some of you may know. You might know it more for mattresses or all kinds of their strange products, but they also did travel deals. And it's my fault that there was £99 Barcelona city breaks, which some of you may have been had to try and experience. I then moved on to Travelzoo, which was another amazing experience for me. It taught me a huge amount because with Travelzoo in particular, it's such an experienced team that I was surrounded by. So I got to learn a much kind of broader angle on the tourism industry as a whole and understand how all the different kind of pieces of it fit together, because it is such an elaborately complicated industry. And I think the key thing from both of them that I learned, this is a great quote, always be closing, is the importance of sales. So for anyone starting a business, sales is so crucial to be able to sell to investors, sell to clients to bring them on board to your website, and selling to travelers themselves to book them into a holiday. Though, for some reason, I was just never quite satisfied. So I think, again, I had a very good, I gained a lot of confidence through my upbringing, and so I always felt like I should push the boat out further and really push myself to chase the kind of bigger visions and the bigger dreams and the bigger impact, to be honest, that I wanted to deliver to the world. So I decided to start my own business, which everybody knows is one of the most stupid things and one of the best things you could ever do in your life. And you might be surprised at the business that I chose to try and start. So actually it wasn't EcoCompanion at first, it was thebucketlist.com. Thebucketlist.com was, I thought, an amazing idea. So we were basically going to help everyone fulfill their bucket list dreams. So these kind of massive aspirational trips. And so this was really exciting. So at this point, one of my friends from university, I think we met at World Travel Markets actually, a good few years back now. And I told him about the idea. We got really excited. So we decided to try and charge forward together, starting thebucketlist.com. But thebucketlist.org appeared. We went onto Google page 2 and discovered an Australian company at the time that had already created this vision in my head brilliantly. So it's not like you can necessarily not do an idea just because someone else has tried to do it, but they had actually done it very well. They had already had 800,000 members. They were a very established brand. And honestly, the wireframes I had in my head of how the website would look was just counter, it was perfect, basically. So I had to think again. So this was our first big setback. So we got thinking, me and my friend, we started to think about what were our experiences over the years, what could he deliver, what could I bring to the table. And ultimately, we came up with EcoCompanion. So this is when we originally started up with the This is the very first wireframe that we ever created. You can see it's quite different. Actually, you probably haven't seen Eco Companion yet, most of you. But it's very different, I'll tell you. The logo in particular. Although I would say that it's quite an attractive homepage at least. So then you have to think what to do first. So we got to work, basically. We came up with our kind of MVP, the minimum viable product, which you might have heard of from the Lean Startups, great book, and which is really about allowing people to have product be put onto the website, people to be able to search through that product, and then ultimately send an inquiry to go onto that operator. So we were really just a listing site, a kind of aggregator for all of the world of ecotourism. And at this point as well, I quit my job. So this is when it gets particularly personal. This is literally my home desk, which I created for myself the next day after I quit Travelzoo to go full-time at this. Obviously, far too many Mac products, because that's what you have to do when you start a company. This is my cliche motivation wall, which has KPIs like this one. So this was right near the beginning. Luckily, it's not last week or something, because that'd be a bit depressing, I think. 3 inquiries, 3 companies signed up, the amount of experiences added, and the numbers of travelers. I think if you can count the number of travelers with pins, then it's still quite early days. Luckily, it's not. It's a bit bigger than that now. So we got our kind of first taste of growth. So this GIF in particular, I actually made this to celebrate our very first sale. So it was the first time we ever made revenue. And obviously, I had to tell my team about it across Slack. So this is literally the exact moment I had just made my first sale for my startup. You can tell I'm somewhat enjoying it. But after about 6 to 9 months, ultimately the business model that we started out with, this kind of aggregator, it just wasn't really hitting the mark. We ultimately, the sales stalled, the relationships didn't carry on for long enough. So actually in the end, the initial web developer that we brought on, he decided he didn't think the idea had legs. My other partner from university, he already had an existing business, so ultimately didn't have the time to contribute anymore. So I was left on my own. I was a one-man wolf pack. So this was the first kind of really big, painful low of the kind of startup roller coaster journey. The other painful bit was I was pretty much just like this little boy, where we also realized the kind of financial situation. So I'd gone from, I was in sales, I somewhat briefly mentioned that, at Woucher and Travelzoo, and obviously us salespeople aren't exactly well known for our financial intelligence. So I basically had gone from a very successful corporate sales career across to a startup career. So from a decent salary to a salary of naught, very efficiently. And so I had to move home. And this was really what I like to, I've kind of coined the term, the grand gesture. So the grand gesture is essentially something I think that everyone who wants to start a company has to go through. So you can't, unless you're very, very lucky, or you have some big clients or something, you aren't likely to be able to keep the quality of life that you hope for when you leave a corporate career and try and start your own business. So I, if anything, see it as like a rite of passage that you have to drop your life standards basically and have less, enjoy less, and accept less, so that you can ultimately kind of start from this ground zero and work your way up again from nothing. So on the left side, this was me coming home. I moved home 5 days after my birthday, so this was from when I was a kid, actually. My mum kept the birthday celebration things. That's one nice thing. And on the right, this is me at Domino's. So again, I was quite happy to pose for this, because I was like, I'll put it as the front cover of my book later in life when I become a success again. I was working 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. every single day. I'd fall asleep 9:30, 10 o'clock, just repeat basically. And then Fridays and Saturday evenings, I'd be working 4 in the afternoon until 10 in the evening. I wouldn't have a day off. It was just non-stop. I was making £400 a month, basically, which was £50 a week for food. There was no going out. There was no nothing. My life was this business and the sacrifices it deserved. But there was light at the end of the tunnel. This isn't a sob story, don't worry. I ultimately decided I needed to learn some new skill sets in particular, so I went to General Assembly and did a digital marketing course, and I started to meet some really interesting people around the kind of growth hacking community. So in particular, near the beginning, Twitter. I just started killing it on Twitter. Most of you I've probably tweeted at some point. We had huge amount of Twitter accounts running and a huge, massive kind of scale, delivering tens of thousands of people to our website for less than £50 a month. Like, it's an extremely efficient system which just laughs in the face of, to be honest, most paid advertising if you can set it up in an intelligent way. And there's obviously a lot of bad advertising through this kind of system as well, like when someone says to you, like, go look at my website, instead of some kind of personable content which is going to relate to you. In the same way as paid advertising, there's good and bad versions of it. So all of this led to us gaining investment. So this is a picture of us celebrating when we finally got the stuff signed off with the cheapest bottle of champagne that they had, but it still counts. And this was obviously an amazing moment for us, a real pinnacle for getting some kind of validation. We got this through a company called Startup Funding Club, which is a great angel syndicate who are very good at what they do, because they don't just give you investment, but you meet some really interesting angel investors who really do support you very well along your journey for the big decisions. So then we started to expand quickly, a little bit too much like this guy though. So ultimately, I think the problem with founders is that, or problem and the reason you have to have this, but we believe so passionately in our mission, and we believe we're so sure that what we're doing has so much value, and we're going to grow at all these ridiculous rates. Like, we don't just put them in the graphs. We really do believe that we are going to be billionaires and the biggest business in the whole of the travel industry within no time at all. So you overinvest, I think, is one of the most common things that founders do in the early days of running a startup. You believe that every pound you spend, you're going to get more back because your business is going to be so profitable. So this is the next second low. I ultimately spent this money far too quickly, and got to my kind of second lowest point of my journey starting this business, which was, I felt like I'd failed the business, I'd overspent, I'd wasted all of this money, and we weren't a profitable business. We hadn't hit the marks that we were hoping for. So then we had to kind of go right back from the beginning. So I had to pause and think, do I even care about this business? Why does it exist? What's the whole point of this? As everyone knows, you don't start a business to become rich. You start a business based on the why. So a guy called Simon Sinek, who some of you may know, Start With Why, is an amazing book. And this is Eco Companion's why. So we exist to create a place for nature in tomorrow's world through the power of ecotourism. So it's an extremely powerful message, because in my head, when I read that, I can see the future. I can see this kind of metropolis, beautiful world with all these crazy technologies everybody's talking about, but I can see it set within this beautiful natural world as well, that the African landscape still exists in itself. Like, that is in question. That is not a certainty that these places will still exist in the future, unless there is business and generally a movement towards protecting them. And from this, it has gone in the right direction. Lots of enthusiastic, happy gifts to finish this. We have a great team now. We are growing very efficiently. We've adjusted the business model around a kind of different approach of this much more of a bespoke, classic kind of travel agent, tour operator business model, where we look to really hold the hand of people who are trying to experience nature, because ultimately it is quite a scary thing sometimes, wandering off into the Amazon jungle, meeting the locals. So, 5 kind of key quick takeaways for you. Some of these will be more relevant for those people who have ideas of their own startups, others for big business. I'm going to come in and save your day. Firstly, fill your team with rock stars and rising stars. I like these terms because they really sum it up. Rock stars are these people with huge amounts of experience who come in, lead from the front because they're just such, they understand the industry and they can help you in these big decisions. So it's like, for example, when we were in the wrong business model. So how could I recognize that? That was because of the people I had, the advisors I had, who helped me to recognize the flaw in the overarching kind of business model. And then the rising stars are just as key, because they do the grunt work alongside you. Like, obviously us founders have to do most of the grunt work, but you need those people who just believe passionately in your why, so that they work for the kind of slave labor rates that you have to work for to try and actually get all of this huge amount of work done that needs to be for a startup. Number 2, growth hacking and social media equal less barriers to entry. So it's the combination of these, of social media as a whole. Everybody knows it's super important, but it's combining social media with these innovative growth hacking techniques that allow for far better returns on investment. So it's the difference between putting a Facebook advert on and for £1 a click, but you know that you can get £1.20 back, or it's a penny a click and you can get £1.20 back. It's just a completely different game when you when you play the system. Like I was very kindly won an award, and the way they described me was that I use and abuse social media networks. That's the way I treat them. So I feel like sometimes it's nice because everyone feels like Facebook's trying to ruin us, so, or like take more money out of us, so you have to fight back sometimes. And Instagram is the hot new channel. So one of the ways I've managed to stay alive is that I built an entire Instagram consultancy alongside my main business of EcoCompanion. And Instagram really is the hot topic of the year. Like, everybody knows it, to be honest, or they keep hearing about it, how important it is. But to put it in perspective a little bit, Facebook has around 2 billion users. Instagram has around 700 million, I think it is. Twitter's about 330. Snapchat's about 300 million. Instagram's going to be up 1 billion by the end of the year, I think it's still around projected. And ultimately, it's part of the Facebook family, so it's not going anywhere. Twitter, Snapchat, any of the others have to compete with Facebook. They're not competing, like, it's just such a different game now that Facebook owns them. And one of the other key things is everyone thinks that you can't convert from Instagram, but Instagram stories, swipe up to go on to whatever it is you're doing, is unbelievably powerful, and you can drive huge amounts of traffic from that. So it's changed now. It is a return. You can get conversion from Instagram. Social media can deliver a positive impact. I think this is one of the things that when I talk to people a lot, obviously with my Instagram consulting stuff especially, they're always saying to me, I don't want to be big on Instagram because it's just vain. It's people who want to look pretty and post pictures of their dinner or whatever it is. And it's got a very negative light. And Facebook as well, people spend too much time on it. It portrays too beautiful of an image of people, so people feel like they're never good enough and all of these things. That's like very much a serious problem that we need to take into consideration. Like, there's a study by Harvard, I think it was, that's basically exactly proved that people are less happy if they spend more time on Facebook. Like, that's really a horrible stat, isn't it? When all of us are probably likely to be addicted to it in this room. But I think using it in the right way, and like, so the difference between posting like Kim Kardashian's selfie against posting the beautiful story of somebody sat with a borneo, like in the, I don't know, with an orangutan, and they're literally making a difference in that moment to try and protect the region in Borneo, for example, from deforestation. Like, that's an entirely different thing. That is spreading a powerful, positive message for a positive change to the world. So it's how we use this tool of social media, I think, is really how you look at it. So it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but it's good, obviously, we're considering that as well. And lastly, start with the why when considering a new business. So very often, I think, like when I said, when we were thinking about what business to start, we were thinking about what was our experience, or say I was a salesperson, so maybe I should go start a sales agency or whatever it might be. But you should also think about your values, like what do you actually really care about in life? What is it that you think should happen, and what problems in the world do you want to try and solve? And that's what you should consider, as well as all of these other things, because that's what will allow you, not necessarily to have to deliver pizzas, but stuff like that you might have to do, and you can get through it. You can take that pain because you believe so passionately in your why. This is from my mother. You will not do incredible things without an incredible dream. And I'll finish on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Max. That's a great story to hear. I'll look forward to asking you questions about that. That's lovely. And let me introduce our next speaker. Is Sue Hill here? Yes? Have you got a mic on? Oh, you can just stand here and talk. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sahil from Suggestly. Here he is. Oh, you've got a mic on, I think. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Sahil. I'm the CEO of Suggestly. And I'd like to start by getting all of us to take a step back and thinking about why we're in the travel industry, what travel really means to us, and what do we see when we see this picture? So for me, and I'm sure for many of you, travel is the opportunity to really enrich lives it's the discovery of new places, it's having new experiences, and it's ultimately creating new memories, both with existing loved ones and with new people. And I think this gives the travel industry such a unique opportunity, and all of us in this room, to really inspire who our customers are, inspire our customers, and enrich their lives through this, and really get them to understand what things they really want to see, what things they really want to do, and then fulfill their dreams, become a dream-driven industry. Unfortunately, for a lot of us in this room, travel doesn't work like this. Far too much travel, especially a lot of sort of beach breaks and city breaks, are focused on price rather than value. And what this means is that it's a race to the bottom where people are trying to get the cheapest prices, and it's very difficult to compete on service. And for all of you out there running travel businesses today, I don't think competing on price is a long-term sustainable strategy. Except for the Expedias and the Booking.com still in the room, competing with the large OTAs on price, especially as they have scale advantages and technology advantages that are set to grow in the next 5 years, is a recipe for disaster. Which is why I implore you instead to compete on value. And when I talk about competing on value, a lot of this is customer service, both online and offline. And at the heart of this is adopting a really customer-centric way of operating. And in mentioning that, I'd want to invite to our stage our in-house designer now, who used to work at Apple for a number of years before joining us. And I think, and we believe that Apple is at the pinnacle of customer centricity. And she's going to talk to you now about and give a case study of how Apple did this well.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. My name is Ruki, and I'm the UX designer at Suggesta. Before I came onto this journey, I was working at Apple Retail on a weekend, as I was one of those people who wanted to do great things and great design, and Apple was the best place to do that. When Apple started, Apple built very beautiful products, and I'm sure some of us in the audience have been to an Apple store before. When Apple started to build Apple Retail, the first thing they did is to look at the hotel industry and how they treated their guests. And then they translated that experience into the Apple Retail stores. And it became about the why. Our duty was to ask our customers why they wanted to buy the products they were buying, and how we could help them buy the best product for that purpose. Apple actually harnesses the power of referrals and NPS, which makes us less transactional. We didn't care much about big specifications, how much money they were going to spend, but rather giving them the best experience they could get. And the best part of that was inviting them back to the Apple Retail store, whether to learn or just to come in for a chat, because we were there to deliver that experience. And that is what we are trying to do in the travel industry, is giving people the best experience online and offline. Apple Retail did not have the best experience between their offline and online. There were two separate entities. But they began to realize how important each of those customer touch points was going to be to their business. And within the 3 years, they integrated their online to offline absolutely seamlessly. We were able to service our customers, whether they were buying online or offline, in the same way. Thank you.
And I think there's a lot that we can learn from Apple. And going back to all about the why, I think we've all heard customer is king. And I think now that shifted to customer data is king. But data is something we've got to be incredibly careful about and very clever about. And we're very heavy users of data. And there are three big things that we look at when we're analyzing data to provide what is essentially a better customer experience, because that's what it's for. So the first thing is reliability of data. And I think a lot of you are probably thinking the data you have about your customers is a lot more reliable than it actually is. Let's say, for example, you send out surveys to your customers. with maybe a chance to win a prize, a free trip, or an Amazon voucher. And then you're then analyzing those responses, and you're personalizing based on the back of that. How do you know that your customer's not just clicking on the first thing that they see to get through that survey to win that prize, and is actually answering that truthfully? It's really important to be able to verify the data that you're getting for your customers before you personalize the customer experience. Otherwise, it's very easy to alienate them quickly. The second thing we look at is relevance. Put your hands up if you've heard of the US retailer Target. Great. So there are two things we look at in relevance, and it's about the data being relevant to your customer and your customer also wanting you to use that data. So Target are a huge US retailer, and they did a lot of profiling and data analytics to try and identify pregnant women who they would then market to with direct mail and send offers to baby products. So unfortunately, a significant proportion of these customers were teenage girls. And it wasn't that Target were wrong, because they looked at the buying patterns that actually turned out they were right. But when they were sending this direct mail to their customers, it was often the first time these families had found out that the teenage girl in their household was pregnant. And there was a huge consumer backlash in the US because of this. So it's really important that when we're collecting and we're getting data about our customers, we know that they want us to use it to personalize that experience. And the final thing is quantity. Because the old adage goes, a little bit of knowledge is a very dangerous thing. We often only have a very small amount of data of what our customer really is, a small amount of the picture, and we tend to fill in the blanks, either rightly or wrongly. So you've got to come up with really innovative ways in which you're actually able to capture more data about your customers and fill in those blanks, because if you guesstimate them yourselves, again, you can make wrong inferences, you can personalize the experience in wrong ways, and you can alienate your customer in that way too. So for those of you that don't know, this is Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. And a couple of years ago, he says every business will be a software business. And multiple people have said various iterations of this quote. And I think this means two different things. I don't think it means you should stop selling travel holidays, you should start building out bespoke software and become an e-commerce company. But there are two really interesting ways in which this can be interpreted. The first one is that every business will leverage software to become a better business. So software can touch on every aspect of your business operations and your customer facing, whether it's through your CRM, whether it's reservation systems, whether it's just improving your financing, remittances, and every part of your operations. And at the same point, it's about understanding your customers, especially those of you in the room that work in travel businesses, where you're dealing with younger people, where so much of their port of contact is online, and understanding the wider context in which they're interacting with other online brands and how they want that customer journey to look like. So it's really about adopting software, both to improve your operations and also on the customer-facing side to provide great digital experiences that mirror the experiences they get in other parts of life. The second part I like to call tech startup mentality, because it suggests that we're essentially a tech startup. We provide software to travel businesses that I'll come on to in a couple of moments. And there are two big things here again. The first one is acting as if you're resource constrained, even if you're not, because that drives innovation. Some of you might have heard that one of the really early ways in which Airbnb grew was by hacking Craigslist. So all Craigslist listings ended up being Airbnb properties. And this was a way they were really able to drive that hockey stick growth. And the other way is being agile, which is especially common in technology. So I think we heard about A/B testing slightly earlier on today in data science, making billions of tiny decisions. And being agile means basically that you're testing multiple very small things in a short period of time, and you're iterating rapidly, so you very quickly find what's best for your customer. So I'm now going to talk about us and our journey. So we're actually underpinned by research from a travel company called House of Travel. Some of you may not have heard them. They're a travel agency chain who are the largest agency chain in New Zealand. And they found two big things. The first thing that they found with their customers, especially their elder ones, was that a lot of them hadn't fulfilled their travel dreams. They hadn't been to their dream destinations. They hadn't done the experiences they always really wanted to do. Because rather than proactively planning, they ended up either reacting to destination marketing or reacting to price-driven offers. And at the same time, they had a handful of top travel consultants that sold twice as many holidays as everyone else. And the big reason they did this was really getting to understand the why of their customer, what their wider aspirations were, what their long-term aspirations were, and in doing so, they were able to retain customers over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I'm going to ask you, those of you that have leisure travel businesses, if you could have a crystal ball that told you all of the trips your customers wanted to do in the next 5 years, when they wanted to do them, and the experiences included in each of those trips, would you want that kind of crystal ball? Put your hands up if that's something that would be useful for you. Great. Because this is a little bit of what we do. We have a customized inspiration platform we provide out to travel brands that's really focusing on the core moments, the things that excite people and make them want to go away. And we've got smart algorithms that underpin this and make it really easy for people to build these dream trips at a high level so you can really capture these wider aspirations. And in doing so, we also encourage people to create their dream bucket list at this stage, getting it from something that's a vague idea in their head to something that's a lot more real, it's a lot more actionable, it's a lot more specific. And it's something you, as yourself, as a travel brand, can then go, I've got this customer dream. I can then start to fulfill it. And after a customer has built out one of these dream trips and they've fleshed out the travel bucket list, we really encourage people to take a longer-term view in planning their travel. Because for people that enjoy travel, it's often their biggest discretionary expense after housing. So we have a really visual travel timeline, as you can see coming up in a moment, where people can plot these dream trips over the next 2, 3, 4 years. So they're able to plan on the long-term horizon much better, and yourselves as travel companies are able to provide a lot more value and really help them fulfill those dreams over the longer term. So going back to our journey, one of the things we had to do when we built out our platform was really understanding the traveler and understanding the trade, working with both sides. And one thing that we came across quite often was getting the balance right between business goals and customer desire, especially on a lot of travel brand websites, which often seem as they were optimized purely for the business goals, whether you're looking to drive leads, whether you're looking to drive people in store, or whatever that may be, without little regard of what your customer actually wanted, what your customer demographic was like, and what they wanted their customer journey to look like. So one thing that we found really interesting when we interviewed a lot of these individuals was just to see the discrepancy. And actually, by adopting a much more customer-centric way of building out your websites and your technology platforms, you're able to see a lot more engagement through that. And customers are a lot more willing to go through what their ideal customer journey looks like, not necessarily through their funnel. And in terms of recommendations for travel companies moving forwards, this is Jeff Bezos, as I'm sure many of you know, the CEO of Amazon, Blue Origin, and recently the richest man in the world. And one of his more famous quotes is that he frequently gets the question, what's going to change in the next 10 years? And that's a very interesting question. It's a common one. But he almost never gets the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And that's actually the more interesting one, because you can build a business around the things that are stable in time. So there's a lot of talk of new technology. And I ask your travel companies not to make that centric as your business. Really understand what are the things that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people will really want. What's the core thing that differentiates you? And by focusing and specializing in that way, you can provide a great customer experience. And that ultimately is what's going to drive retention, that's what's going to drive growth. And by having that laser focus and depth, you can provide great customer experiences. But there's so many more touch points now. And the customer journey starts everywhere from the beginning of the inspiration stage where we operate to post-trip, post-booking, where people are reviewing and they're sharing. And at the same time, it's important to provide great experiences at each part of that customer journey. And I think unless you're a huge multinational, it's very difficult to do this all yourself. So the way that I implore you to grow and position yourself in the future is by having that laser focus on getting that customer-centric part, the core experience that you have, and by having partnerships. whether that partnership is getting a great booking system on your website, whether it's through the reviews that you have, whether it's through the referrals, or whether it's with someone like ourselves that can really help add value to the inspiration stage. And by having that laser depth focus and providing great experiences through partnerships, and this is where I'd especially implore you to adopt new technology, I think you can put yourselves in a great position to be a travel business that will thrive in your future. Thank you.
Thanks, Sahil. Thank you very much, Sahil, for those thoughts. That's great. Now, our next speaker, just before she comes down, she actually spoke at my session last year. This is Susie from Hotel Bonanza. Sorry about that. And Susie was very much in startup mode last year, and she's still in business. So, Susie, come on down and tell us how you've managed to be in business for more than a year. Let's welcome her, everybody.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susie. I'm the co-founder of Hotel Bonanza. We are a cheaper, fairer way to book and sell accommodation online. So to give you a little bit of a background, the idea for Hotel Bonanza was born about 5 years ago. My partner Bevan and myself were discussing the incredibly high commissions that his family hotel was paying, and we said to each other, right, okay, well, is there an alternative? Do they need to be this high? Could we do something about it? And so after about 2 years of research, we finally started building Hotel Bonanza about 18 months ago. And as Paul says, I spoke here 12 months ago. We weren't live then. We'd just started signing up hotels. In the last 12 months, it's been a sort of slightly bumpy ride, but in July we soft launched, and now the focus is very much on signing up more hotels and building up our membership base. So first of all, I'll just explain how we differ to the main OTAs. Probably for accommodation providers, the number one thing is that we charge just 8% commission with no hidden charges. The standard commissions nowadays are about 15%, but the reality is a lot of hotels pay an awful lot more than that. I was speaking to a hotel in London a few weeks ago that is paying 30% currently. Premium positioning, that sort of brings me on to premium positioning. It's something that if you want your hotel to be sort of featured more prominently in the research results, then ultimately you pay more money. The big OTAs do sort of suggest that it's dependent on your quality and price ratio, but the reality is really you pay more commission, and it's about having higher conversion rates as well. So the big winners there are the OTAs because the hotels are paying more and the customers are not actually getting what they're searching for. So we don't do premium positioning. We don't charge more money. And we have, our default search listings are decided by a combination of proximity to search location and price. And in time, as we build up our reviews, we'll bring that in as part of it as well. So that brings me on to rate parity clauses. The big OTAs, they insist that hotels can't sell any cheaper on their own websites. That is being challenged in areas of Europe, such as France and Germany, but in the UK, it still very much exists, as it does in many other parts of the world. So the reality is that like the price comparison websites like Trivago, yes, they suggest that they sell for the lowest possible, you could get the hotels at the lowest possible price, but really, if you go and have a look for a hotel, the chances are the prices are pretty much the same everywhere. So we don't actually ask for rate parity ourselves, but the reality is it does very much exist, and so we do abide by it. And that brings me on to the consumers. So we could have all the hotels in the world on board with us, but we have to have something that's actually going to entice consumers to actually come to our site and book. So for our members, we give them a 5% discount on every booking. That's over and above the standard rates displayed on other OTAs. Now, we pay for that discount, not the hotels, so meaning the hotels still only pay a flat rate of 8% commission. It's also you need to be logged in order to see the discounts too. So it's a closed user group, and it means that hotels won't get penalised because they're not breaking any rate parity rules. Another thing is transparency about pricing and charges. if you were to go onto booking.com, you'd probably quite regularly see like really massive discounts, 50, 60, 70% off. I mean, it sounds amazing. The reality is that that's actually not the case. If you look a little bit closer and go to other websites, because of the rate parity clauses that Booking.com and Expedia insist on, the prices are the same everywhere. And the way that they give you these discounts or suggest that there are these discounts is slightly misleading, because that hotel could have been charging 70% more on a Saturday night, but this could be a Monday night and they could be half empty and doing last-minute discounts. It sounds good, but it's not all it seems. And Hotel Bonanza is about making sure that we have a very transparent, honest message to our consumers. We're also about to go live with functionality that will enable hotels to offer our members further discounts and incentives. So a lot of hotels have got in touch with us and said, look, 8% commission, that's great, but we're happy to pay 10, 11%. You give us the ability to give your members more further discounts, and we will. Also, I think incentives are going to be a really important part of our membership. So we'll say to hotels, look, early check-ins, late checkouts, free bottles of wine, free spa treatment. Just give our members. We're giving the 5% off. You want bookings through Hotel Bonanza. We're charging 8% commission. Give our members something that they're going to really want. So now, just to give you a little idea of our current position, we've got more than 9,000 properties currently registered. They're mainly in Europe, Australia and New Zealand, but we've got a growing number of properties signing up in the US, Canada and in Asia. We've got all types of property on board. It's just, even though we're called Hotel Bonanza, it's very much hotels, apartments, guest houses, B&Bs, holiday homes, even campsites. They're not all live on our site yet for the reason of channel manager connections. So we're in process in the process at the moment of connecting with channel managers. It's been a huge feature, huge focus for us in the last 6 months. I'll talk about that more in a moment. As I've already said, we're in soft launch mode at the moment. Our customer front end is only in English at the moment, but our online property registration is translated into 8 European languages. So yes. Sorry. So a lot of time, quite often people say to us, right, okay, what on earth are you doing? You're taking on like the might of Expedia and Booking.com. What are you thinking? You're just bonkers, basically. Well, yes, that could be the case. But actually, it's a massive, massive market, the online booking market, and I think these figures just sort of make it quite clear. The global accommodation bookings in 2016 totaled 550 billion. The value of online accommodation booking, according to Trivago, is forecast to become 375 billion. I think this 20% may be slightly out of date, but the OTA market share was 20% and growing at about 8% per year. So it's an enormous market, and we only need to get a small market share, even just to become an irritant to the big guns. Now, back to the channel managers again. That, I'd say, has been probably the biggest challenge we've faced since we started signing up hotels. So it's been a real chicken and egg situation, because we'd go to the hotels and they say, great, this is fantastic, we love 8% commission. Are you connected to our channel manager? And we'd say, no, go to the channel manager. And the channel manager would say, well, how many hotels do you have? And it was a nightmare. It was a complete nightmare. In the case of SiteMinder, who we're now live with, we had nearly 1,000 of their hotels signed up with us, and they were still saying no to us. We went live. They generally don't connect to people to companies that aren't even live yet. So I had to get a bit crafty, and I wrote to their CEO, and said, look, I saw an article that you wrote in T News a couple of months ago, saying that you were really worried about Booking.com and Expedia getting involved in hotel technology, but hold on a minute, your company's saying no to connecting to us, and we're offering an alternative. So, you know, why is that? And fortunately, that sped everything up, and we got the go-ahead to connect within about 3 weeks. And I think that sort of created a snowball effect. And so, you know, we're now live with about 12 channel managers. We've got another 10 connections in progress. It's, you know, everything's become an awful lot easier. We're really making headway. There's a long way to go. There's a huge number of channel managers in the world. First, I probably haven't, just for anybody who doesn't know what they are, channel managers are companies that enable hotels to update their rates and availability in one place rather than on multiple extranets. Sorry, I realised I probably hadn't explained that. So now onto our Bonanza Club membership. So I've already sort of discussed the first 2 points, but you know, we give a discount, a genuine discount on every booking. Again, we're going to encourage hotels to set up sort of Bonanza Club rate plans. We are going to be developing the membership to grow and retain our member base, and we'll be looking at incorporating other travel services such as tours and activities in the next 12 months to sort of like create a taste card for travel. Also we'll look at developing tiers of membership to segment the market. Okay, so this is probably one of the most important questions, which is how on earth are we going to get our message out there? So the first answer to that is that we can't compete with the enormous marketing budgets of Expedia and Booking.com. We can't go down the PPC route. We can't buy traffic on Google because they'll probably sink us overnight. So we have to look at other ways. The most important, well, maybe not the most important, but one really, really important thing for us is to tell consumers the truth. I think everybody in the hotel industry understands that high commissions are forcing hotels to put up prices, and that rate parity means that effectively there's no price competition. But the reality is the majority of consumers do not know that. I think if you told the consumer that did you know that hotel you've booked pays 15 or 20% to Booking.com, they'd probably be like, I don't care. But if you told them that, actually, do you know that hotel is being forced to put up its price by sort of 15% or 10% to try and cover the commissions, and you know, you're losing out, the hotel's losing out, and the big travel company is making all the money, well, I think they probably would be slightly more bothered about it. And our message is very similar sort of to the TransferWise message, which, you know, like TransferWise exposed the rip-off charges of the banks, and that's very much what Hotel Bonanza is doing. We'll also use travel bloggers, influencers, the media, social media, in order to get our message out there. So the next 6 months is going to be about giving away loads of free memberships. It's about getting people writing about us, talking about us, sharing us. And also, even though we'll be very much keeping a global focus, we're going to look at using niche areas to reduce our marketing spend and target consumers more effectively. So now, the next 12 months. So we've got this far. We're live. Now we need to really focus on traction with the hotels, traction with the consumers. So it sounds very simple, but we want to have 100,000 accommodation providers live on the site in 12 months. And as it says there, 2,500 Bonanza Club members. The reality is we'll have a lot more members than that, but paying Bonanza Club members probably around 2,500. It's about pushing the free memberships. It's about getting people believing in the sort of the value and wanting to be part of our club and wanting to be part of something different and fairer. And then also in the next 12 months, we'll be developing and launching an app and translating the front end into key sort of worldwide languages and of course, then further channel manager connections. And so I think, to sum up, the idea of Hotel Bonanza is, as it says there, we offer consumers and accommodation providers a credible alternative to existing booking sites, but with genuine value, transparency, and fairness at its core. Thank you.
Sahil, come and join us. Thank you. So 3 great presentations, ladies and gentlemen. We've got some time for some questions, and 3 brave people starting new businesses because it's not easily done. Who'd like to ask a question at all? Yes, so can we run a microphone, just the gentleman there, and then another one to the lady down the front here as well. And perhaps you can just tell us who you are, where you're from, be very helpful. And it was just here as well.
Matthew Greenwood from Exploring York in, well, as the name suggests, in York. I just wondered if you could just expand a bit on, I kind of got the idea with 2 of the companies, how long they've been in operation for, but just kind of sense of how long, maybe how many employees in the company, and maybe where the financing came from as well. Just to, yeah.
Who are you asking that to?
To all 3 in general.
Okay, Max, would you like to start?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
we'll work our way across.
So it was October the 14th was the 3rd birthday of Eco Companion, so 3 years old now. The first year, is always a complete mess. I'm sure you both agree. Second year is also a complete mess, and then start to understand things a bit better in the 3rd year. We gained investment. I think it was about a year and a half into the journey for 160k, which is basically like. I think for you guys probably gone through the same thing as well, of like the SEIS is an amazing scheme, obviously, where you get big tax reliefs for investors. So I think that's always the first start, unless obviously, depending on the business model, I guess, if you can have much bigger scale things. But yeah, so that's as far as we've got. And then now I'm lucky enough to be able to self-fund it. So that's kind of how we're growing it from now, yeah.
Good, thank you. How much of your company do you have to give away for your 160k?
Well, it's kind of backwards and forwards a bit, to be honest. Now I'm investing more myself, but yeah, I've managed to keep the vast majority of it. Like over 2/3 of it's still owned by me because I've ended up as a sole founder.
Lovely, well done, Sahil.
Yeah, I'm the sole founder too. So we're just over a year old. We're about 13 months old. We raised angel money from the outset to actually get going. And that should keep us going through till hopefully mid next year, and we quite potentially hit profitability before that. In terms of team size, we're a team size of 5 at the moment. And yeah, I guess for us it was slightly different in terms of building out our technology. Probably took us about 8 months or so, and that's still something that's completely iterating. But I mean, it's such a different journey for each particular business and what's required of it. And I think the other 2 sort of selling to consumers, where we're looking to sell to medium-sized and large enterprises. It's a very different type of business.
And Sahil, your angels, were they people you already knew, or did you go and find angels that you hadn't met before?
So we were lucky that people already knew. So actually, the company that undertook the research came from a couple of their directors and someone else who runs a much larger travel technology company that I had existing relationships with.
Thank you. Susie?
So we've been going for about, we started building the site about 18 months ago. We had initial friends and family round, and so we've, in total, including, we've invested about 250,000 into the business so far. 80,000 of that has been invested by Bevan and myself. We are currently going through a seed funding round at the moment. We're raising 400,000, and then in a year's time, we're going to be looking for Series A of at least 2 million. We've got a team of about 12 staff at the moment, which once we close the funding round, I think it's going to be, we'll be growing that quite quickly.
Good. Thank you for that. There's interesting stats here. Another question here, yes.
Hi, my name's Jessica Brahim. I work as a UX designer for the company Sky Club, and this is a question specifically for Sahil. I was really interested by what you were saying about kind of finding out more information.
Hold the microphone a bit closer. Yes. That's better.
Recently I was doing some UX research, and I particularly wanted to know about trust, and I found that kind of through speaking to our users and asking them about how they use the review process, everyone said, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in reading reviews. Like, every single person said this. But my gut feeling was this wasn't the case. And I was really interested by what you were talking about with getting reliable information. And if you have any examples of a situation that you've had that's quite similar, where you've been asking people for information and they've been saying the absolute opposite to what you kind of really feel is the case, and how you dealt with that?
Yeah, so I think it's the difference between what people say they do and what people do. So when we look at data, when we're analyzing data, it's all about monitoring what actions people are taking. So when they choose to do a particular experience, or when if they've done something, they say whether they put a smiley face or they put a frowny face. When you've actually got actions that capture intent rather than text responses, which are either sort of post-event, they're a lot easier to analyze and make judgments from. At the same point, you've got to be very careful with sort of various different touch points. So if it's a human-to-human interaction where you're getting data from, someone's probably a lot more likely to be honest in an online survey, and it's tempering those sort of judgments so you don't necessarily over-rely on them. It's an art more so than a science, anyways.
Okay, fine. A question for you, Max. So you mentioned the term growth hacking, which not everyone's familiar with. Could you explain what that means?
Yeah, I feel like the best way to describe it is just cheating in marketing. It's like trying to have like this definitely isn't the correct actual way to describe it, but it's like an unfair advantage basically in marketing, where like I say, people describe the way I do it as using and abusing the social media networks. So like they want to work a certain way, like Twitter wants you to use its paid advertising, but there's much better ways to use Twitter to promote yourself through finding, and like it goes beyond social media, of course. Like you can do it in so many other ways. Like there's more like subtle offline versions of it where you can just find things that just have unbelievable return on investment. So instead of, like I say, like most of business is all about trying to find like you spend £1, you get £1 and something back. But the difference between that and, you end up with like pence per click onto your site. So like for me, Twitter at the beginning, just tens of thousands of users coming to the site for nothing, basically, other than a few apps. So trying to, the power of that is what delivers, and obviously combining it with actually an effective product, which back then we didn't have yet. So that was the challenge then. But we mentioned it before with Airbnb, Uber, like every single one of these has a hack. Like Uber with the referral scheme they had, the virality that gave, you could call that a growth hack. All of these, there's so many different forms to it. Yeah.
Okay, fine. We need to sum up, ladies and gentlemen. So sorry, but let me just say, Susie, you told us your objectives for the next year. We saw that number of properties you want to sign. Sahil, what's your objective for the coming year?
Mainly scaling across enterprise clients. So we're looking to work with a number of tour operators, large travel agency chains. And we're looking at expansion as well, also in Australia and the US, Australia, New Zealand, and the US in the next 6 months. And I think, taking it from there, we may look to raise another fundraising round, but we're hoping to be profitable sort of sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Max, your thoughts for the coming year?
I think because you saw the gif of me spending money too quickly, I think I'm almost learned more the other direction of like I now hate the idea of investment and luckily can invest myself. So much more of an organic approach over the next year ahead, I think, to learn incrementally customer by customer. Yeah.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, just to remind you, if you want copies of the presentations, leave your business cards with the young lady at the back. And let's thank Susie, Sahil and Max for a great session. Thank you.